ultimately, when you know the purpose and the cause and what it is that you're trying to accomplish, whatever it may be in business, it may be, something with a family decision, it might be something financially. But again, like having those moments of spending some time in the Word, getting on the same page with God, and he speaks to you, and when he speaks to you and speaks to you individually and you get to come together, that's so powerful.
You're listening to the Big Ideas Podcast with Ashlee Ilg. Tune in for honest conversations as we pursue bold dreams, redefine what is possible, and empower the next generation to live big. You'll hear stories that prove over and over again that just because something wasn't a part of our plan doesn't mean it won't be used for our good. Whether you're already an entrepreneur, you dream of becoming one, or you're raising the next generation of entrepreneurs, this podcast is for you. There's no time to waste on your big ideas. So let's get started. Here's your host, Ashlee Ilg.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Big Ideas Podcast. We're so glad to have you here with us for season 3. We are still talking about all the ways that God has taken our stories and maybe the ways that we thought it was supposed to look and just kind of flipped it upside down. And I am so excited to have my husband, Andy, back here with me. If you guys listened to episode 39, he was our special guest then, it's
good to be here.
I was so glad to have you back. So officially welcome.
Thank you.
And we got so much great feedback from you all from that episode. It was so encouraging, so just helpful. And a lot of y'all were asking too, like, we love your story. We love hearing the decisions you made and kind of how you navigated a lot of those things with your marriage and early entrepreneurship and just growing businesses along with a full house, lots of kids, busy, full life. But can you tell us like more of like how you do it and what that looks like? And, for all the other, either plan to be married, plan to start businesses, or maybe you're already in the mix of that. And you just would love to see somebody else who's kind of navigating that as well and maybe has a little bit of a track record for it. That's what we're here to do tonight. So we're going to just kind of pull back the curtain. It'll be a kind of a quick punch, kind of bulleted, here's some things that we do that have helped us, that have kind of helped keep our priorities in line, and maintain not only a good marriage, but a strong marriage, a solid marriage, healthy family dynamics, all of that. And of course, growing businesses along the way. And so we're going to just kind of dive right in, babe.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you want to give a little bit of our background?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yep.
So I grew up in South Jersey, went to school at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, studied aerospace engineering, and Ashlee did communications there. We both met in college. We both, when we graduated, we got married basically right afterwards, and we moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and work brought us up here, and got into the corporate arena pretty quickly, landed jobs that were in our fields, and the ball really got rolling in the corporate setting, almost like we were living the dream, so to speak.
Almost. So like 3 months into working and living in Atlanta, not really knowing anybody. The short version of the story is 3 months. It was only 3 months in, we finally, kind of took the leap into entrepreneurship. So we were newly married, navigating all of that, real life bills, adulting, all of that. We started our family right before we turned 30. So we took a few years to just kind of grow our businesses, kind of grow ourselves, lots of personal growth and marriage and all of that, those first several years. But we had 3 boys in 3 years pretty quickly there. And then we adopted our 4th child, our only daughter, through private adoption. And then for my 40th birthday, we decided that we were going to have another baby. And so as another boy, we call Liam our little bonus baby. Obviously can't imagine life without him, of course. So went from newly married, working corporate, to starting businesses. We've run and grown businesses for the last 20 years. Lots of different pieces there. We've grown businesses together. We've obviously raised our family together. And so now with 21 years later, being married, 5 kids, multiple businesses, lots on our plates. and lots of passions and pursuits still on the table that we're like, oh my gosh, we have
Yeah.
so many things that we want to still do. And so, which really brings me into like the number one thing, a lot of people well, I'll say this first. We're going to talk about 3 areas that we're going to protect. And I think this will kind of encapsulate some things that maybe will help answer questions from some of y'all from the last episode too. But we're going to talk how we protect our time, how we protect our peace, and then how we protect our purpose. And so from a very practical standpoint, babe, talk about what are some real life weekly, monthly things that we do to protect our time together so that our marriage isn't suffering for maybe it could be very, I'll say it this way, it could be very easy to feel like we're being pulled in multiple directions or running in a bunch of different directions. Sometimes top speed, sometimes Mach 10, sometimes it's a slow jog or it's a slower pace. That's fine too. But what do we do that has always been a priority for what we would say like maybe protecting our time?
Yeah, and I'll have to rewind a little bit just to give a little context, but we, because in different parts of our entrepreneurship walk, we've tackled that question a little differently.
Yep.
We used to be literally working together in our businesses in the same shop, working together. So we would see each other all day, every day. And that was for a season. And well, seasons change. And, Ashlee is now writing a book. She's, full-time podcasts, social media. She's absolutely incredible. And your time is very different than my time, but we come together. We are serving the same cause and same purpose, but growing multiple companies. So kind of running down different paths. So at different seasons in different times, we've had to adjust this. And to answer your question, I had to learn very quickly how to draw the line because my personality, I'm a worker, and sometimes I can overwork. I kind of come from a whole line of my whole family is overworkers, so to speak, and they work too much, and they fall in love with what they do, and I do too. I fall in love with the work and the grunt and the grit and everything. And
I think you love that feeling of being productive.
I do. I really do. But that can affect, obviously your time and, and the health of your marriage and the success of your family. And so learning how to develop boundaries, and the only way to develop boundaries is communicating together. And so we every single day would communicate, even as simple as what time am I coming home and will I come home at the time that I'm saying. And this was always a big challenge for me. And I learned very quickly, like, hey, if you say you're going to be home, be home. And because your wife counts on that. And
especially your wife with 3 under 3.
With 3 under 3. And
that was a tough season.
We heard this sermon one time, and the sermon was like, have you ever asked your wife, what is the most important time that your wife counts on you being present and available? And I don't know that I'd ever asked Ashlee that question. And when I asked her that question, it was something like, you need to be home between this window, this
dinner time
window, 5:30
when the kids are melting and it's not bedtime and everybody's hungry
and the food's burning on the stove, and hey, be home when you say you're going to be home. No, no,
you said the food was burning.
I did say the food was burning. I did. Well, because 3 under 3, and
not because I've ever burned a meal.
No, you don't burn the food.
I cook perfectly balanced, unburned. Hey friend, I wanted to take a quick pause to ask if you've taken the quiz yet to find out what type of dreamer are you. It's super important to discover what's working for you, but also some things that may be keeping you from really pursuing your greatest purpose. It takes just 2 minutes to find out if you're the skimboarder, the sunbather, the sandcastle builder, or the surfer babe. So jump over to dreamerquiz.com and be sure to share your results and tag me in it. Now back to the show.
So the point of this is develop those boundaries with each other. And when you set those expectations between each other, uphold those expectations.
Yeah. And a good counterpoint to that is, you love being home for breakfast and making like pancakes and making breakfast for everybody. And I'm like, well, that's awesome, but I need you home for dinner time.
Yeah.
So I love that you like being home I love you being home for breakfast too and doing the big breakfast thing with everybody. But half the kids aren't even up for breakfast most days lately.
That's right.
So dinner time, still dinner time, y'all.
Yeah.
Even my 3 under 3 are still
Yeah.
they're teenagers now, but we still
Yeah.
like, as much as we can protect dinner time. Dinner
Yeah.
time is super important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and in addition to that, like on a daily basis, our weekly date nights, we like literally do not mess
Yes.
around with date night.
Right.
We've had babysitters that we had never met show up for the first time because we're like, we need date night. Are you good? Are you available? You were referred to us. Come on over.
Yeah.
Um,
We don't know how couples survive without date night.
Yeah.
And that's because we've learned how important it is to be able to separate yourself, maybe from your job, from work, from your businesses, and just
the
have that,
kids.
and the kids,
Yeah.
and have that alone time that you can actually just focus with each other.
Yeah.
And it's so important in a healthy marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uninterrupted conversations, and we protect almost like what our conversations are too. I mean,
Yeah.
we love talking about what's going on in our businesses because they're like our babies too, and it's not like we don't talk about our kids, but at the same time, we always make sure that we're like, how are you?
Right.
Like, look
Yeah.
me in the eyeballs. Like,
Yeah.
what are you going through right now? Like, what can I help, you go through or navigate, or like, you're really good about that with me because I can get in my head a lot. And so you help me, just kind of vent and dump all of the things. And then you help me put it all back together. And, sometimes you just listen and it's so great. Yeah, you've learned not to try to fix, but you're a great listener. But in addition to date nights, as another way we protect our time, we do like quarterly getaways, just you and me.
Yeah.
Where that's like the next level of uninterrupted conversations and like tons of time and like car time together if we're, going away. So we're driving somewhere, we've got hours together. And one of our favorite things to do, I think, for this season with our golf cart businesses, that's just kind of growing and kind of taking us all over the country is, you have a lot of last minute, like, hey, I need to go meet with this dealer in South Florida or Tennessee or wherever. And I'll be like, let me line up my sitter and I'm coming with you. And they're like impromptu and they've been some of our most fun, like memory building, time together, I would say lately. So
that spontaneous, reaction that just goes a long way.
Yeah. Because you're telling your spouse like, hey, I'm willing to drop what I had on my calendar because time with you is really important right now.
Yeah.
And even if you don't even realize that you need it, you do.
Yeah.
So I would say, on a daily basis, like find that time that is really critical for both of you, and then prioritize a date night, once a week, maybe every 2 weeks if you have to. And then just be willing to just open up your calendar for a longer getaway. Doesn't have to be anything extraordinary or extravagant, but just, more than 24 hours together without work, without, commitments and family obligations. And a vacation with our kids is not
doesn't qualify.
Does not qualify.
Yeah.
We just recently took our kids to the beach and we're like, oh my gosh,
we need a vacation.
Let's plan our trip next. This was awesome.
It was awesome.
But this was not the trip for you and me. So it's just different.
It's different because you don't get that quality time.
Yeah.
You're constantly paying attention to everything else that's happening. And,
And the kids need that. They need that too. So it's just, you got to do a little bit of all of it. So, all right. So let's talk about how we protect our peace. And, this can go in a lot of different directions. But what I wanted to talk about was how just the importance of being quick to forgive, being quick to give each other grace and mercy, and realizing that they didn't mean that, and just kind of getting to the bottom of knowing the other person's motives, knowing the other person's heart. If like, for an example, if you said something to me and I was completely taken by it and was like, well, what did he mean by that? And then I just have this like, toxic, passive aggressive, and it's just, you can just feel it all. And learning to not do that and to just realize he didn't mean anything by it, just being quick to forgive, not just forgiving, but being quick to forgive. And I think one of our rules in marriage, and you chime in, is we don't go to bed angry. We literally would not let the sun go down and let it fester all night. I think maybe we have once, and like in the morning we're both like, neither of us slept, we need to talk about this. And it just does it.
That was great advice from one of our pastors. And we literally made that our foundation. and every night that we go to bed, that is exactly true. Yeah.
Yeah. So just protecting your peace. And I think another way that we do that is edifying and affirming each other in front of our kids, publicly in front of our staff, in front of, not like in a showy way, but just just seizing that opportunity when you're like, hey, that was really meaningful, or hey, I loved how you did that, or hey, I'm really proud of you for what you did, X, Y, and Z, and even when you're not there, like I love bragging to our staff about things that you're doing, like just subtle or direct. And so they just know like, hey, he's not here today because he's doing this. That's also helping us or, contributing to the big picture or whatever. And so it's like just filling in those gaps for each other.
Yeah.
I think that just protects peace.
Yeah.
I think overall people know that we have each other's back.
Yeah.
And it strengthens us, but it gives less opportunities for the outsiders to try to come in and maybe create division.
Yeah. I think each one of us, as we've grown up and gone through many situations, and sometimes you can come back and, it's been a tough day of customers, and, you bring that home to your wife, and, do you dump that on your wife? If it was a bad situation during the day, why do you want to bring it home and share it and relive it all evening, And so sometimes, and I really appreciate this about you, there have been days where I've come home and I'm like overwhelmed, I'm a little stressed or whatever is going on throughout that day, and I've done different things to kind of clear my mind so that when I'm home I can be home and I can be at peace. I can be at peace with our relationship and with our kids and our family, and not be thinking about all the things that frustrated me throughout the day. And so sometimes I'll come home and I just need to go swim, do a couple laps in the pool, or I need to go take a jog, I need to walk,
mow the grass.
So cutting the grass to me is actually very therapeutic. And so if Ashlee sees me in the garage working on something, like right when I get home, that's therapeutic to me. Like that's I'm like downloading. I'm downloading. Yeah, you're gonna have to let me build that for a minute.
Like the kids will be like, "Where's Dad?" I'm like, "It's not home yet."
Yeah.
We're gonna know when Dad's ready to come in the door.
I know. But this is a great opportunity for the wives in a moment like this, because that's when she passes me the boxes of things that have to be assembled, and I just I just get in.
No, I let you mow that grass. I let you make those straight lines. Right. And sweet Gavin, our 11-year-old, was mowing the grass the other morning, and he looked just like you. He looked like he was just thoroughly, like he would look back and glance over his shoulder at the lines he had just made in the grass. And I'm like, oh, he's enjoying this like Andy does. It was really cute.
Yeah. The smell, the fresh grass smell, and the satisfaction of
and it's like immediate. You're like, I did that.
Yeah.
It looks good.
But it might not be grass to someone else. But
finding those things that protect your peace.
Yeah.
For me, it's definitely going for a walk. I'll be like, I'm going for a walk. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'm like, do you want to go for a walk?
Or working out. I mean, to you, even this past weekend, this was an interesting situation because our number 5, Liam, he went down for a nap, and I knew we probably had about an hour window. And so I'm like, hey, babes, Liam's napping. I think I'm going to go to Home Depot. And I had already told her that Sunday is her day to do, what she would like to accomplish.
Last week was unique because you worked a 6-day week, including a trip to North Carolina and back in one day, which meant like a midnight return, just to turn around and kind of do it all over again the next day.
Yeah, so it was a lot on you.
Right after a trip.
Right.
So it was like a recovery week that all the kids were kind of out of their, normal rhythms. You were working like overtime. I was trying to knock out some goals that I'm sure I overscheduled for myself. But by Saturday night, you were like,
you had the wind blowing.
Hey, I think I want to do this tomorrow. And I was like, let me tell you what I need tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I think you just kind of read my language, my body language. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to take care of the kids tomorrow. You can do whatever you want to do. And I'm like, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then.
Yeah. Do that, husbands. Do it often.
Do that.
Yeah.
That's great advice. Don't wait for your wife to go, can I get a break? Yeah. So offer the breaks before you think she might ask, because she will never turn it down.
So husbands, I didn't go to Home Depot. Okay.
Yeah. The moral of the story is he
No.
goes, oh, I think Liam's down, which he's one of 5. So 5 minus 1 equals how many kids are still at home not napping? That would be 4. So yeah, when he was like, I think I might go to Home Depot because I think Liam's napping. And side note, his naps are extremely volatile at this point, and they are very
Yep.
touch and go, which means he could wake up at any point, and my one thing I wanted to do would have been completely botched. And I looked at him and I was like, oh, I thought you were watching the kids today, and you're like, oh, I thought he was napping. And I'm like, okay. And it's just,
Husbands, have you ever gotten the eyes? You've gotten the eyes. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. This is
I
where
hadn't planned on sharing this story. This is a bit,
well, we're
yeah.
talking about peace here.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but
30 minutes in
but
my gym.
you had completely relied on that time, even if it was just a mental break, a workout,
Yeah.
whatever it was. But it and that's what I realized where I went wrong, where it was like you were planning on that mental break to have peace, and you needed that time away from the kids or the thought of needing to be around the kids.
Because working out, watching a baby monitor, and being interrupted by
Yeah.
the others that need to know
Yeah.
where their socks are or
Yeah.
whatever, that doesn't count.
The interruptions and
Yeah.
yeah. So husbands, read your wives and
Protect
realize
that peace.
again, there are things that give you peace and there are things that give your wife peace, and you need to be on board with that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's taken years to kind of cue in on what each other's are, but I think, and because they always change. I mean,
They
I think
change.
as
Yeah.
as our family dynamic changes, as the kids' needs change,
Yeah.
as growing new businesses. I mean, that's
Yeah.
they obviously need to take priority for a time. So
But if we don't talk about that and know where those limits are, then explosions happen, and
misunderstandings.
and all that. So, again, and it almost comes back to the date nights, because every date night, we get to have these topics and see where we're kind of being stressed a little too much, and where we need to, I need to lean on Ashlee, or Ashlee needs to lean on me. And, men, you need to know when to take some loads off of your wife, and
wives, we need to
do the
know
same
when we need to
us.
speak into our husbands and kind of refresh their perspective and take weight off of you and let you realize, like, hey, you need to give this to God. Like, you are doing everything you can do. Take the load off, like that pressure, or I see that. I
You
I
do
think
that
we
a
do
lot
that
with
a lot.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, which kind of leads right into the last one of protecting our purpose, and always landing on the bottom, not the bottom, but the foundation of everything we do is like, well, God has called us to this. God has given us gifts for this. There's purpose in this. We don't get bogged down in petty things. We seek God in those open doors and those opportunities, and in closed doors, and just always going back to, well, what does God say about this? You're saying this, I'm saying this, we want this, our kids, our family, whatever is saying this, but what does God say about this? And I think you and I have learned, again, early on, maybe share like how we pray, like what do we pray for God to, how to reveal like what we should do or what we shouldn't do.
Yeah. And both of us have always prayed independently, and after we've prayed independently, we come back together and we talk about this situation again. And ultimately, when you know the purpose and the cause and what it is that you're trying to accomplish, whatever it may be in business, it may be something with a family decision, it might be something financially, but again, like having those moments of spending some time in the Word, getting on the same page with God, and He speaks to you, and when He speaks to you and speaks to you individually, and you get to come together, that's so powerful.
Yeah. And we've always asked God to make the answer as clear as the day He turned water into wine. And we have we could do a whole episode
story.
The stories that were like, wow, that answer was so clear. Like every other door was closed. And I think we did talk about a couple of those in the episode 39. But I think that really just helps protect our purpose. And realizing, like the book You and Me Forever talks about, where, our purpose is our purpose. Like God arranged changed this marriage. This isn't just like a relationship because we love hanging out with each other and being together. This is like a God ordained relationship. Like this is a marriage covenant. And it's because God has a plan that's bigger than you and I could have done individually.
Right.
Like we have to be together to accomplish his will.
Right.
I can't do all the things I'm called to do without you, and you can't do all the things you're called to do without me. And so when we're tempted to look at challenges or even opportunities and not, just not, and if we don't put them through the lens of like, well, what does God want with this? Or does he want anything with this? I think that always kind of it recenters us to what are we even trying to do here?
Right.
Are we caught up in ourselves? Are we caught up in our own ambitions or our own fears? And I think just bringing everything back to what God says about it again just protects our purpose and keeps the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we don't get caught bickering about a lot of petty things. There's no time for that.
Yeah.
And that's something that we really cherish and we value, that we're constantly trying to set new goals, and we're always building something together, and we're always looking not just where we are, but what we're doing to get further along. And so there's always something positive and encouraging to talk about. And so we don't get caught in the nitty gritty, he said, she said, or little disagreements, because we value the bigger purpose and something much bigger that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've actually had people say to us like, gosh, you guys literally don't have any drama in your life, or like, why don't you know about this? And we're like, it's just drama. Like, what are we gonna do? We just get caught up in it for no reason. So yeah. Anything else you want to add about that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that kind of wraps up our topics, just kind of trying to hit home a little bit more on a practical level, and protecting our time, protecting our peace, protecting our purpose. Hopefully that kind of gave y'all something to think about and take with you as you move forward in doing all of those yourselves, whether, like I said, whether you are growing a business with your spouse, or you hope to, or you're kind of in the midst of starting that and want to just kind of see what that looks like and some practical things. We hope that helped. I appreciate you being here, babe.
Love being here. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, as always, keep those big ideas coming, and we will see you on the next episode. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning in today. Before you go, it would mean the world to me and my family if you would share this episode with at least one person who you think might benefit from this message. And of course, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also follow me at Ashlee Ilg on Instagram to keep up with our adventures and for continued encouragement as you pursue your big ideas. Thanks again for joining us. Until next time.